In the last stream, we were working on kind of completely overhauling our base. We reorganized all of the quadrants on the top and most of the quadrants on the bottom level, and things are looking much better, much tidier than they did previously. We also completely removed all of, or almost all of the integrated dynamics cables and all of the energy exporters, item importers, item interfaces. All of that stuff has been stripped out and replaced with applied energistics to cable, applied energistics to import buses, export buses, etc. to hopefully unify everything and make it much easier for us to autocraft basically everything that we want to autocraft going forward. Now, between streams, I have gone ahead and tidied up this bottom platform right here. I have moved the coke ovens out to the outside edges, and I've gone ahead and added, I think, 2 more coke ovens than what we had previously, basically just for the sake of making a symmetrical platform. Over here, we have basically the exact same setup. I have torn down the alternators for now. I don't think we're going to really need those going forward now that we have the magmator power in the nether, and now that we can make so many more magmators if we do in fact need more power as well. But down here, we have our shop that is purchasing coal ore. Down here, that is being processed by the mechanical squeezer because this is still the best way to process this. You get more coal out of the mechanical squeezer than you do out of something like the pulverizer. And then down here, we have the drawer. And under the platform here, I've not quite hooked all of this up, but essentially to try and make this look a little bit nicer, I have taken away all of the pretty pipes that we had previously, and I have run all of these fluid and item pipes under the coke ovens just so that it looks a bit cleaner on the top platform here. And then right at the top, we have this fluid drawer for creosote. And so my plan here is going to be to get even more item pipes and even more fluid pipes. And we are definitely going to need way more fluid pipes than that, which I think we should be able to make if we get a couple more buckets here as well, which we should definitely be able to do. And I'm going to run all of these cables under the platform. We're going to extract from the coal drawer, which is right here, and that coal, oh, I didn't even think about this. I have run cable kind of round here and up the pillar. If I go and show this off here, we have a setup right here. I have foolishly put a storage bus on here, but now I am realizing that Isaac did not need to do that because we can in fact just shift right click here and then connect this with our linking tool to the pre-existing storage controller. And so really this, I don't think is necessary. So I might be able actually to just go ahead and extract from the bottom here, and then run that pipe along to all of these coke ovens, thus allowing us to very easily distribute coal to all of them. And then from there, we do of course need to get the coal coke that is produced by these back out around into a second drawer, which we don't have down just yet. And we also need to get the fluid, the creosote that is produced by all of these coke ovens as well, out of the coke ovens and around into this guy right here, this fluid drawer, which we did make previously. This one I have gone ahead and upgraded with both a gold and copper upgrade because you can see that we have quite a lot of creosote, 394 buckets. That is all of the creosote that we had in all of the coke ovens and in the big create tank that we had here previously. And the reason I put these 2 upgrades in is because we didn't quite have enough diamonds to make 1 diamond upgrade, which I think would have done it on its own. But the way these work, the copper upgrade here multiplies the block item storage by 8, and then the gold multiplies the block item storage by 16. And the really cool thing about the upgrades from functional storage is that they do stack multiplicatively. And so by adding both of these, we get the base multiplied by 8 and then multiplied by 16 for a very large 1,000 buckets worth of oil, to the point where I think if we added 1 more copper here, it would go from 1,000 up to 8,000 because it would multiply it again. So unlike with storage drawers where it multiplies the base value, with functional storage, the upgrades multiply the current storage value, if that makes sense. And so these can get very large very fast. And if we wanted to, we could of course put in a diamond upgrade, which multiplies the block storage by 24. We definitely could do this. Diamonds are not that difficult to get, but at the time that I did it, we didn't have any diamonds and it was just going to be quicker for me to set this up. And so real quick, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is connected. I'm going to set that to extract, of course, to allow all of the coal coke to move out. I'm also going to run a fluid pipe from all of the coke ovens up and around to the fluid drawer, and we'll throw down 1 more drawer for coal coke, at which point this should be back online. And once that's done, the first thing that I would really like to start working on in today's stream is getting our money generation system back up and running, because in the top left there, as you can see, we are very low on funds. We had almost $10 million at one point, and we're now down to just 185,000. And so we desperately need to get the production of PCBs back online so we can start selling those and start making some money again. All right, so not too long later, we now have quite a lot of pipes down. We have one pipe here extracting the coal, and then that is on the outside lane here. So these item pipes and these item pipes, that distributes the coal between all of those. Right now, it will be set to nearest first, so it will fill these ones up before it fills up these ones. But as you can see, these will be slowly but surely filling up, and as more coal is made, they should get sent round into those coke ovens. Then we have another item pipe, which is not connected, that is extracting all around here and sending items to our coal coke drawer. The coal coke drawer is right here, and then I've moved the fluid drawer down to here opposite the coal coke drawer, and that is connected up with the fluid pipes. So the fluid pipes again run all the way around. All of those are set to extract, and they all send fluid round up into this fluid drawer, which once again is connected via the drawer controller. And so now in our system, you can see that we have around 420 buckets of creosote. Nice. Now, in making these, we did almost run into a slight issue, and that issue is that after resetting up our create system in the last stream, what we didn't reset up was the setup that allows our system, our base, to make buckets of lava. Previously, we had a drawer with buckets that we were exporting to, we had a depot, and then we had a fluid container full of lava. This fluid container, by the way, wants to be exporting creosote, like this. That should start to fill up and should start making treated wooden planks, which is going to bring this whole system back online again, which is good. But right now we don't have that set up for making lava buckets. The reason for that is that I believe that it's probably going to be in our best interest to look at tweaking our pressure chamber recipe to use the blazing crystal instead of using the lava bucket, because the lava buckets are just a bit finicky to work with. They're really tricky to work with, and they make things, I think, needlessly complicated, whereas the blazing crystal here is super easy to make because we have blaze rods coming in automatically. We can make blaze powder automatically with our system. We did set up a mechanical squeezer down here to make that blaze powder. What we didn't do is we didn't put down an associated item pipe to extract the blaze powder. So right now, I think if we were to request blaze powder be made, it would send the blaze rod here, it would get turned into blaze powder, but then it wouldn't go anywhere. A very janky but temporary solution is to do something like this. That will now extract the blaze powder and pump it back into the pattern provider to allow it to actually function. But once we have the blaze powder, we can just put it into our energizing orb, and because of the fact that we have a fairly high tier energizing rod, that should, in theory, of course, when we put the correct amount in, which in this case is 3, it's going to very quickly produce a blazing crystal for us. And so I do think, though, what we should be able to do here is just place down a pattern provider next to our energizing orb. And again, if we set the pattern provider to lock the craft until it receives the results of the operation back, again, I'm fairly certain that the pattern provider will only ever put the exact amount of blaze powder in, because again, much like a lot of the other stuff that we're working with in this pack, you can't put in more than 3 blaze powder. If you do, nothing gets crafted. Even if you put in a multiple of 3, it doesn't craft 2 blazing crystals, it just does 1. And so again, we are going to have to lock the crafting to get those blazing crystals, but I think that should be fairly easy to automate and should cause much less hassle than the lava setup that we had before, because the previous lava setup meant that anytime we put a bucket in our system, it was automatically exported and turned into a lava bucket, which is why we have so many of them now, but that meant we were constantly crafting new buckets, which was not ideal. However, we're going to have to take yet another step back because, as you may have just noticed, when I tried to request the pattern provider, we do not have enough logic processors. And one of the other things that I would like to do today is I would like to automate the production of all of the different processes. Those being the logic, the calculation, and the engineering processes. If we can automate the production of all 3 of these, it's going to make it way easier for us to expand our AE2 system in the future, because we can just craft all of the pattern providers that we need without having to really think about it. And it's of course going to allow us to fully automate the production of the computing cores that we were working on at the end of the last episode. So in order to get these automated, we need, I think, maybe 4 of these advanced inscribers. We need 1 to make printed logic circuits, we need 1 to make printed calculation circuits, and we need 1 to make printed engineering circuits. Then we need 1 to make printed silicon. And then I think finally we need 1 to make all of the processors. So actually I think 5 of these advanced inscribers should do the trick. The reason we need a dedicated inscriber for each one of these circuits and the printed silicon is just that they require a different press. There are some convoluted ways that we could try and do it all in fewer inscribers, but I think for the sake of simplicity, if we can just get 5 advanced inscribers, or 4 more than what we have currently, then we should be able to automate this fairly easily. For that, we need 4 more regular inscribers, which should be fairly easy to do. Do we have what it takes to request 8 sticky pistons? We do. Fantastic. So that should be almost everything if we have enough integrated circuits, which I'm going to assume we do not. We do not. We have 1. Can I request like 30 of those? It looks like the answer is yes. So if we hit start, hopefully those are going to start coming in. Whether or not there are other flaws in our system, that is yet to be seen because we've not really tested this since we did our whole base revamp, but I'm hopeful that those should just work and should start coming in sooner rather than later. Some of the parts of the process are a little slow, so it will take a minute there, but while that does its thing, we also need to get 8 of these engineering processes. Thankfully, we do have 14 engineering circuits. That's fine. Silicon-wise, we don't have much. However, we do have some silicon that we made in the last episode, and so if we throw our silicon press in here like this, we can start making silicon, and once we have at least 8, we can then take that out, put in U and U, and now as soon as we get these integrated circuits, we should be good to go. Let me go and make sure though that this is actually working as intended. It looks like I just didn't set this pipe here to extract. Also, I've got to be more careful about where I break now because I keep forgetting there are cables everywhere, but this needs to extract. That is going to allow our system to make the capacitor. I think that was the issue there. It didn't have the items required to make that capacitor. As soon as those make their way around, I think that should just work. Let me finish that up and then let's check. So hopefully the capacitors are about to be made. Yes, we can see things working here. This is actually making the PCB as fast as it can. Perfect, there's the package. As soon as that goes through to the multi-servo press, it's going to get unpacked, and there we go. The integrated circuits are made. Fantastic. So we can take those out. The system is going to finish making the rest there whilst we do something like this. That's going to allow us to get the 8 engineering processes required, and with that, we should have everything that we need to make 4 more of these inscribers, and then from there, to make 4 more of the advanced inscribers, assuming we have what it takes to make a bunch of hoppers, which we definitely do. Boom, and boom. Nice. So the question then becomes where we want to put this. And the question after that is, do we need more logic processors? And I think the answer is definitely yes, because to set this up, we are also going to want, you guessed it, even more of these pattern providers. And right now, of course, we can't do that because we don't have any of the logic circuits. So real quick, let me make a bunch more of those. We'll do U and U. And once we have a bunch of logic circuits, we can make 5 of these ME pattern providers, and we can get those on top of our advanced inscriber to get this automation up and running. Okay, so I've moved these down to the bottom level of the platform where our other machines that we're automating are, and I'm going to throw, of course, our ME pattern providers down like this and make sure these are all set to point down like that. And if we, again, quickly use the network tool here, I've gone ahead and run a cable across this way and then up here. And we're going to do basically the same thing we've done here, where I've put a P2P tunnel right there, and that gives us the possibility to put down 8 pattern providers before we run out of space. Over here, we need to break one of these, so that is this one right here, like that, and we need to throw down one more P2P tunnel, which we might not be able to do. We cannot, unfortunately, because we do not have an engineer's processor. That, thankfully, should be pretty easy for us to fix, especially now that we have these integrated circuits coming in again. And so real quick, if I take one of those over here, we can do this, this, and this. That is going to, I think, very slowly. That's not going to work for me. Interesting. So I have gone ahead and disconnected this. That's why that's not working. If I do this, I think that is going to work. So you can give these power through the AE2 system. And there's a side benefit as well here in that if you have these connected to the AE2 system, I think, or I've been told that they automatically input to the system as well. So if I do this one more time, but I don't take it out. So if I do this, supposedly this engineer's processor should just get auto inputted into the system. It doesn't. I wonder if that needs some kind of input upgrade to make that happen. If not, we might have to do another item pipe to kind of pipe round like we've done over here back into the pattern provider. For now, though, we can go ahead and take that, make one more P2P tunnel, like so, throw that down right about here, like this, throw down the cable on top of it, like So, and then from there, we can use this memory card to right click, and that is connected to this purple cable here, which is very quickly filling up. You can see that we're at 22 out of 32 channels. These advanced inscribers can get power through the cable, but they do not count towards channels, whereas the pattern providers, of course, do count towards the channel count. And then from there, we can just throw down a few more of our pillar facades to cover all of that up. Nice. And so now all we should have to do over here is encode a couple of patterns. The first is the logic circuit encode. Again, we do want to make sure we get rid of the press every time we do this because the press is already going to be inside of the inscriber. And so for every one, we want to left click to get rid of the press. Same's true with the silicon here. Boom and boom. And then from there, we can just whack these in over here. It doesn't really matter what order. We will do silicon first, then we'll do logic, then we'll do engineering, and then finally calculation. And then we just need to make sure that we have silicon first, then logic, then engineering, and finally calculation. Nice. And with all of those in, we are, I think, pretty much good to go. Now we just need to encode the 3 final recipes. This time around, we can just encode and leave everything as it is, because I'm fairly certain that the system is pretty good at making this work. Like, if you just send the items, it will make the product, and it'll put everything into the right slot, which is good. So let's do that, and let's go and put these down in this guy right here. Boom, boom, boom. And so now everything should be ready to go. The chat is pointing out that I did make a mistake there. We didn't have the P2P tunnel down previously, and that's why the items didn't get sent into our system, because whilst it was connected and whilst it was getting power, it was connected to this kind of subnetwork that just has the 2 P2P tunnels on it. It's not connected to our storage system, and so it was getting power through the quartz fiber, but it wasn't actually connected to our system. That's why it didn't import. And so let's give that a try. If I go ahead and request 1 engineering processor, we should see that the circuit gets made over in here, somewhat slowly. The silicon is also made, and then over here, this is finally made, and you'll see that the other 2 items did get put into the system, and this also gets put in the system. Perfect. That is super nifty, and really didn't take too many cables at all. It's a very clean setup. The only downside to that setup right now is the fact that it's very, very slow. And so to fix that, we just need a bunch more of these acceleration cards, to the point where I'm probably just going to go ahead and teach our system how to make the acceleration cards and then whack those into some of our molecular assemblers here. We are running very low on slots for new recipes though, so at some point we are going to have to set up another one of these little clusters to get even more crafting capacity. But as of now, we should be able to go ahead and request, let's say, another 20 of these. Now, of course, our system does not know how to make diamonds or fluix crystals. We do kind of want to change both of those at some point in the not-so-distant future. For now, though, just to get this online, let me throw some diamonds into the mechanical squeezer. Those, of course, will automatically get pulled back around into the system, although I am a fool. I believe that the mechanical squeezer here is sided in that you have to extract from the bottom, like that. That's going to pull from the output. You'll see it actually pulled from the input when I put the diamond ore in with the item pipe set to extract on the side. If we try that again, this should now work, and it totally does. Cool. And then as far as fluix crystals are concerned, we do also want to teach our system at some point how to automate those as well. For now, though, nether quartz, redstone, and charged Certus quartz is all we need. Let's go drop those into a pool, preferably this one right here. Boom, boom, and boom. And that should give us more than enough fluix crystals to make the 20 acceleration cards, which is going to allow us to make all of our advanced inscribers as fast as possible. We can put the full 5 into all of them. Boom, 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 and boom. Nice. And so now those are all as fast as they really can be. And so if I were to go ahead and request, let's say, 20 more of these, of course, that is going to require more integrated circuits, but the system should be able to make all of that happen. And most of it, at least the stuff that gets done here, should be fairly fast. It even knows how to make the silicon from last episode as well. And so all of that should be good to go, to the point where we should now be able to pivot back to replacing down this energizing orb, because I did pick it up to put this down. Let's throw the energizing orb kind of in the middle. I'm going to move this. This is not going to be here permanently. We do need to set that up and automate that as well. But for now, what we'll do is we'll grab some more of the universal cable. And I think we'll have this kind of in the middle. And I think the middle might be here, like this. So let's do something like that. We'll leave kind of 3 cables free to put down more of these energizing rods if we want, and then there's space here for some more machines should we wish to put those down. We'll throw our energizing orb right about here, and then I think we can just get another pattern provider and place that down really on any side of this energizing orb. It shouldn't really matter which side we put it on, to the point where we could in fact probably put it right on the bottom of the energizing orb pointing upwards. Of course, we do then have to get the items out of the energizing orb back down into the pattern provider, but that should be very doable. Of course, my continued issue here today is that a lot of our outputs are not going back into the system. Right here, our system knows how to make Fluix dust, but that Fluix dust is not then being pulled back around into the system. Thankfully, we can fix that very quickly with one of these ME import buses, which hopefully... Oh, they do require Fluix dust themselves. Okay, let me put the Fluix dust in the system manually, and I guess let's put the other Fluix dust in as well so we can actually make the import bus, and then we'll throw that down. Going forward, now that should work as intended. We can now take our pattern provider, and we can throw that down onto, I guess, the bottom of our energizing orb, like this. Make sure we hammer the bottom of that so it points upwards. Let's also quickly connect that up with a Fluix cable right about here. Although, again, this is going to require a separate P2P tunnel because that's not currently on any of the pre-existing lines. Thankfully, the P2P tunnels are really not that expensive to make, and so I'm not too worried about doing a quick one of these to make sure that is configured. Boom, and boom. That should now be ready to go, and so let's quickly see about teaching our system how to make the blazing crystal using the energizing orb encode. We'll throw that into this pattern provider, and then in terms of actually pulling the item out, I think it probably makes sense for us to just use another importer here for the time being, and we'll throw that down maybe right about here, like this, and that should almost just work. I think we are going to have to whitelist the importing of the blaze crystal. Let me try that, but I have a feeling that it's going to import the blaze powder. Never mind, it didn't import the blaze powder. We do, of course, want to make sure that in here we set the lock crafting until primary crafting result is returned. But now, if I was to go ahead and request, say, 20 of these blazing crystals, does that just work? No. Okay, so this doesn't work how I thought it did. I believe this isn't working, by the way, and I believe the reason it's not working is because for the lock crafting here to work, I think you have to have the blazing crystal go back into the pattern provider, and so I think here we're going to have to do something a little bit more awkward, like this, not like that, like this, so that the item gets extracted from the orb and goes back down into the pattern provider, like that. I think if that is done, then it should unlock the crafting. Let me try doing that manually. If I do this and send that round, that hopefully unlocks it, and it does, and now it's continuing to do the crafts that we requested earlier, so that does work. It of course looks horrible because of the fact that we've got a hole in the floor now, and so I'll probably move this pattern provider up to the surface so that we can set this up without a hole in the ground like this, but the concept here does now work, which is good, and the only thing missing, of course, is our flux point, which we can throw down right about here to bring power back to that energizing rod. And back over here, the final thing to do to kind of bring this all together is, of course, change the recipe here, because this recipe, of course, still thinks that it needs lava buckets, and whilst we do have some lava buckets in the system at the moment, we are not going to have those forever, and so we should definitely look at changing this recipe to this one, encode. And if we replace that into really any of the free pressure chambers. Right now, we do have 2 pressure chambers free, these 2 right here. This one shouldn't be free, though. This one right here is the one that we're going to use to produce compressed iron, and also, these are not set up correctly. Let me make sure all of these are set to lock crafting until the primary crafting result is returned. Fantastic. Of course, previously, we had compressed iron being made automatically. Now we no longer have it being made automatically, and so we do need to teach our system how to make it. I do think that I'm probably going to teach our system how to make a lot of compressed iron at once. I think we can go in with a full stack. We can just say a full stack of iron equals a full stack of compressed iron, encode. And so now whenever we need some compressed iron, it is going to make a full stack of it, which means our system shouldn't have to request the craft quite so often. It should just have a decent amount of it ready to go as and when it needs it. Chat is also right here. We could also teach it how to make the compressed iron block as well. That would require an extra crafting step of then teaching our system to downcraft it, I guess, unless we stored it inside of a compacting drawer of some persuasion. Either of those situations would work For now, though, we will leave that as it is, and hopefully now we should be able to request PCBs. In fact, we should be able to request lots of PCBs, should we want to. So the basic mechanisms, of course, are not craftable. The raw rutile is also not available, I guess, to the system. Like, we have to buy that and send it round into the system. We are going to have to set up some kind of auto buyer into a drawer, so our system does always have rutile ready to go. And other than that, there was one more item, and that's plastic. Plastic we do have. I assume that I have just not linked that up to one of the nearby drawer controllers. I have not. In fact, we don't seem to have a drawer controller in this quadrant. I must have picked it up. That is actually fine. I think for now we can take this ME storage bus that we took off of the creosote drawer earlier and throw that down right about here, and that's going to give our system access to that plastic to the point now that we are kind of good to go. And I guess actually, does our system not have access to this? It doesn't. Let me bring this online as well, and so now we should have access to those, and I think with that we are basically good to go. Again, our system doesn't have raw rutile. We can buy the raw rutile temporarily, which thankfully is not too expensive, and kind of dump that into the system, like so. And now, if we head back down here, we do have a cellar right here. Previously, we had an exporter on this with a crafting card. We should probably set the same setup up again so that we can automate the selling of PCBs. So let's put you down, maybe right about here. Let's throw down another export bus right here, connect that up with cable, like so, and then in here we're going to throw in the crafting card, and we are going to tell this guy to export finished PCBs. And so now it should begin, hopefully, auto-crafting finished PCBs continuously, selling them automatically, and making us, hopefully, a ton of money in the process. And so now that that is taken care of, let's pivot back to the end of Chapter 4A here, because I believe that we should have what we need to make our first single board computer here. To do that, we need to get luminescence. This is made in the mixer with energized glowstone, redstone, and gunpowder, and then the blaze burner here does need to be super heated, which thankfully should be fairly straightforward. The luminescence is required in order to make this advanced crafting table. This is from the extended crafting mod, which adds a bunch of different crafting tables that are bigger in size. So the basic crafting table is kind of standard. It's a 3x3. Then you go up to a 5x5 with the advanced, a 7x7 with the elite, and a massive 9x9 crafting table with 81 slots inside of the ultimate crafting table. Thankfully for now, we only need the advanced crafting table. And again, for that, we do need to get this luminescence. So we do already have a mixer over here, and we can probably look at hijacking that to make this luminescence. As far as how much luminescence we need, I actually don't think it's that much. We do need some for each of these basic components here, and we need a couple of those to make the two basic crafting tables that we're then going to upgrade into an advanced crafting table, but I don't think we're going to need stacks of the luminescence. Now, redstone and gunpowder we should have. Redstone we have, and gunpowder we have, thanks to our mob farm. The thing we don't have is energized glowstone. However, I believe that we can just throw regular glowstone into a magma crucible, and that should be fairly easy to make. Now, we don't have a magma crucible. However, I'm also hoping that this is not too difficult to make either. It doesn't seem to be. We are just missing a standard machine frame, boom and boom, and we're missing 2 Invar gears. We do have a bunch of Invar in the system, none of that particularly difficult, and for now, we'll throw that down, let's say right about here, like this. And of course, we do want to make sure that we give that some power with a flux point. Nice. And so in here, this is going to very, 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 very slowly but surely turn our glowstone into energized glowstone. It takes 80,000 redstone flux for that to happen, and we only use 80 redstone flux per tick, which means it's going to take 1,000 ticks, which is 50 seconds, so almost a full minute per glowstone, and then 1 glowstone dust. How much does that get us? That gets us 250 millibuckets of energized glowstone. Thankfully, we do have 26 hours of time backed up in our time in a bottle here, and so we can accelerate this quite a bit. You can't go too aggressive with the thermal expansion machines because they are limited, as you can see on the top, on how fast they can pull power in. Like, there's a limit on how fast the power can go into the machine itself. We are producing enough power, but the power can't get into the machine fast enough to have it run at 32x speed. So I think really you can't go over 16x unless you make a specific augment that being the high flux RF coil. This multiplies the RF transfer speed by 6 times, and so you get 6 times the transfer speed. So if I do this, we should be able to do the exact same thing, go up to 32x, and you'll see now it does indeed work because we have the power and we can transfer it in way faster, and so we can speed this up a ton, maybe even go up to 128. That takes it a bit too far, but it does still kind of work. It's going down slowly, but we are getting buckets and buckets of energized glowstone, and so we should, hopefully, be able to take some of those buckets and throw them into our mechanical mixer over here. Of course, this does need a blaze burner underneath it, so let's do one of these. Thankfully, we've got quite a few of these in the system now from all of the setups that we tore down and had previously, and if I am not mistaken, I think we can go ahead and use some of our pneumaticraft fluids to superheat our blaze burner. Specifically, if we take something like the diesel here out of the thermopneumatic processing plant and right-click it onto this guy, that just heated him normally. I think we have to heat him normally and maybe then superheat him? Oh no, I think we might have to give him a straw first. Hold on, I've not given the straw to this guy. I think the straw goes in, and then maybe we can give him the diesel. There we go. So now he is superheated, and if we look at the diesel here in JEI, we can see that this lasts for 40 minutes, and so it is a very efficient system, but you do have to have that straw in there for this to work. And so let's do this, and then we'll drop in the redstone and the gunpowder. And of course, we can also go ahead and accelerate this a little bit as well to make luminescence. So we only do get 4 luminescence per bucket of energized glowstone here, which is not great, but it's also not too bad either. And I guess this is probably one of those situations where it would actually make a bit more sense if we got another one of these fluid tanks here from Pneumaticraft, because this would allow us to move 16 buckets of glowstone all at once, and I believe we can just right-click this and kind of use it as a giant bucket like this to dump all the glowstone in at once. Of course, the basin here can only hold 1 bucket at a time, but we can slowly but surely drop all of this in, of course continuing to make this faster as we go so that we can make, hopefully, a decent amount of luminescence fairly quickly. I'm not too sure if 40 is going to be enough, but it probably might be. So, let's have a look here. If we want to make 2 of these, we need 4 basic components, but then we also need the catalyst, which is another 4, so we need 16 of these basic components in total. For that, we need iron, luminescence, and then black iron slates. The black iron here is made by combining blocks of coal with steel. Thankfully, we've got a decent amount of steel in our system. As far as blocks of coal, we don't have quite as many. We do have quite a bit of coal in the system, just because we had a lot in all of the coke ovens that I tore down between streams, and so hopefully we can go ahead and throw these blocks of coal into our induction smelter. The induction smelter here does appear to have caused some kind of issue. So I think, again here, we might have to lock the crafting until the primary crafting result is returned, and that should stop things like this happening, because here I think it's trying to make both electrum and circuit backplates at the same time, and that's causing issues. So we'll let it make the electrum here, and then once that's done, we can go ahead and throw this in as well. I'm being told by the chat that blocking mode also works, which would make sense. I think either of these would do the trick, but hopefully that should prevent that from clogging up in the future. That's really only a problem if the machine has multiple inputs. It's not so much a problem with something like the pulverizer or the redstone furnace because it can't put the wrong recipes in there. In here, though, we can do this, and of course, again, we can make the high RF coil. There are higher tiers of this as well that let you go even further with the amount of redstone flux that you can transfer. For now, though, we can do this, and we can do this to hopefully make a decent amount of this black iron very, very quickly. And so once we have it, we can take it and craft it down. We needed at least 16 black iron in order to make all of the basic components, at which point we can then go ahead and make 2 of these basic catalysts, 1 and 2, and that should be everything to make 2 of these basic crafting tables. Never mind, we do indeed need 2 more black iron slates. Boom and boom. And so now we just need the same again. So we need 8 of these advanced components. These are made with gold and again the black iron slates. So let's make, I think, 17 of these. We actually don't have enough black iron. That is crazy. I thought we'd made more than enough. Alas, we did not. Thankfully, again, it's not very difficult to make. Let's get even more coal. Boom and boom. And let's once again throw that in just as soon as that craft is done. That's my bad. This is steel, not iron. And once we've got the 17 black iron slates, we can once again, I guess, take one of those out, make 16 advanced components, then go ahead and make another catalyst, boom, and boom. Nice. So now we have the table required in order to make our first PCB. Let's throw this down right about here for now. And I think we also might have all of the items required as well to make our first PCB. We don't have any black iron apparently, which hasn't completed the quest. There we go. So now there's just the automated advanced crafting table, which we'll get to in just a second. But in terms of actually making this single board computer, we need 8 of the integrated circuits. We need 4 silicon. We need 4 computing cores. We need 1 finished PCB and 8 redstone ingots. This kind of seems fine. How many integrated circuits do we have? We've got 10. We need 8. We'll take that. Then we also need the computing cores. Thankfully, we did get given some of those in the last episode, so we have enough to make this happen. Silicon, we should have. We do not. That's fine. Let me go ahead and request some of that. PCBs, we probably don't have because we are making them, but kind of constantly selling them over here. So what I might do is kind of temporarily disable this, which I think we can do most easily by just taking that pipe off, at which point we can just go ahead and request a PCB for us to use in this craft. And then as far as the redstone ingots are concerned, we can once again head back over to here. How much redstone do we have? We've got a ton of redstone. Boom. And steel, we also have. Boom. Let's do this and not that, because this needs to actually finish first. Let's help it along with the time in a bottle. And once it's done, we can then do something like this to make a ton of those redstone ingots. Again, we're probably going to want to automate the production of all of that fairly soon, but just initially here, to see if we can actually make our first batch, we need these in the middle. We also need the 4 silicon that we saw earlier as well. That PCB is done. Fantastic. Let's take you as well. That's going to go right in the center there. These actually go down like this with the silicon around like that. We then have the integrated circuits on all of the corners. And then finally, we need the redstone ingots as well. Boom. And there we go. Single board computer acquired. And that gets us an extra one as a reward, as well as even more coins. You'll see we are back up at $500,000 or almost $500,000. We should definitely go ahead and sell all of these excess coins that we have in our system. That takes us up to $2.47 million. And finally, if we want to craft the advanced auto crafting table, this, for the most part, seems doable. It's just the crystalline components here. These require crystalline ingots, which I have a feeling are going to require nether stars. It does indeed require 2 nether stars with gold, iron, lapis, diamonds. So this might be doable, because I don't think that the wither should be too difficult for us to kill now. We have a ton of soul sand. And then as for the wither skeleton skull, we can in fact reuse our altar of birthing here. The spirit of birthing we already have the ability to make, and then it's just bone and obsidian. And of course, one of the upgrades that we have not made yet for our mob masher that we can make is the beheading upgrade. You can again put up to 10 of these, and I'm actually going to teach our system how to make this one because it's a bit of a pain to make. Let's do this, and then let's also teach it how to make just... I'm hopeful that this is going to work. I have enabled substitutions. I'm hopeful that it's not going to try and use broken helmets for both those recipes. I don't think that it will. I think it's smarter than that. But if we put all of these into the last remaining slots here, here, and here, we should be able to request 10 of those beheading upgrades. And once those are done, we can just whack them into the mob masher that's next to our birthing altar. And then it should just be a case of getting at least 1 bone with 1 obsidian and 1 of the spirits. Because we probably will get at least 1, maybe multiple, wither skeleton skulls with 10 beheading upgrades. If we're lucky, we might get more, but if we are unlucky, we might just get the 1. So let's do this. This is probably going to pick up the glass. That's fine. Let's throw you in there. Let's re-grab that tinted glass out of the system. And then I'll probably actually just teach our system how to make the wither skeleton. Because if we take this, go back over to the birthing altar, we should be able to shift-click in this recipe. I'm going to change this to a wither skeleton skull. It's a little optimistic to assume we're going to get one every time, I guess, but I think we should just then be able to do this, and if we whack this into the pattern provider that's above our open crate, we can now request wither skeleton skulls. It does say we don't have a spirit of birthing, which is true because the spirit of birthing is not the same as the spirit of awakening. The spirit of birthing here is not makeable. Okay, so that makes a lot more sense, because I was going to say this seems way too easy. Oh, never mind. Here it is. Spirit of Birthing. The required Spirit of Birthing can be obtained easily by a person breeding 2 passive animals together while there is a slight excess of aura present in the surrounding area. For each new baby born, there is a chance of a few Spirits of Birthing to be created in the process. So we need to get some passive animals in a chunk that has excess aura, and then we have a chance of getting the Spirit of Birthing. So we've not really delved into the aura at all so far, because aura is kind of available passively in chunks, and there has so far been enough to where it's not been a problem. Our birthing altar has just worked, so has all of our other Nature's Aura stuff. But I believe that what we can do here is we can craft an environmental eye, and this will tell us how much aura we have in a given chunk. So to make this, we need to come back over here to our little wooden stands, and we need 1 spider eye, 1 gold ingot, 2 gold leaves, and a sapling. So 2 gold leaves, 1 gold ingot, and then the sapling in the middle. So if we just go 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the tree in the middle, grab a hoe, as well as some gold powder, because over here we need to do, again, something like this to get this to actually work. Perfect. Once it's done, we can hopefully grow the tree, and if everything's done right, we'll see the particle effects. Fantastic. That's going to get us the environmental eye, which we can put into our bauble slot here, and that should just give us a bar, I think, in the top left, that's going to tell us how much aura is in a given chunk. So initially, we don't have much aura, and I'm not too sure. You'll see that there's not much aura in this chunk because we've been using it for these crafts. As we move over to like these chunks, you'll see the aura goes up quite a bit. I'm assuming we need quite high aura to get this Spirit of Birthing. If we go back, I believe there are chapters on how we can actually produce aura. Right here, creating aura is a chapter. The ancient tree that we saw before can do it. It says here, a basic way of replenishing the aura in an area are ancient trees. Once an ancient tree sapling is created, it will grow like a normal tree, but its leaves will start increasing the aura levels back to normal slowly. So this does only increase it back to normal, so we do, I guess, need extra on top of that. And I do believe that in the quest book, there is a quest right here that says aura creating devices. There are many ways to generate aura. For starters, you might want to look into ancient saplings, and then probably move to canopy diminishers. Okay, so the canopy diminisher, let's take a look at that. How does this work? Surely at one point in their lives, any person dealing with trees was faced with this well-known issue. An oak sapling grows into a big tree which is hard to look at, to manage, and to chop down. The canopy diminisher is a block that serves 2 purposes in and of itself. Placing it close to an area that oak trees are growing in, at most 10 blocks away from them, will cause only normal-sized oak trees to grow. That's actually a cool feature in and of itself. In the process, the additional natural energy of any saplings that were growing into bigger trees gets turned into a quite substantial amount of aura that will be fed into the environment. Interesting. How hard is the canopy diminisher to make? It requires bottled sunlight, which we've seen is quite easy. Infused iron is also easy. We need bone meal, we need any saplings, and then we need a token of fear. I'm assuming we don't have a token of fear. Never mind, we totally do have a token of fear. And so we have everything. Perfect. Okay, let's throw this down then. We'll do it over here for now, because we're going to want to... Actually, I wonder if it makes sense for us to do this over where we have all of our passive animals spawning, which I believe is just over in this direction here. If we put this down somewhere over here, our delightful dirt should allow us to have our choice of breeding, like our choice of animals that we breed. If we F3 and G, we can see the chunks available. Let's put this down... Let's say right about here. And then, of course, I didn't bring any saplings with me, and so I'm going to have to do a quick /home to grab those saplings. And I do have my hoe, so we can do a quick /back to take us back here. Now, if I put these down, we should hopefully be able to see the aura in the top left there increasing quite a bit as we use our hoe to grow trees that would have at some point become bigger trees. And we can see that aura is jumping up. I'm assuming that kind of line in the middle there is the baseline, and I'm assuming that anything over that baseline is excess aura. I'm assuming we don't have to fill the bar all the way up to the top to actually make this happen. I should probably also go back and get potentially some wheat as well, so we can maybe breed these cows together. So let's see if I can drag some of these guys together. Can we do this and this? We can. Whether or not... Oh, look at that. Nice. We did, in fact, get 2 Spirits of Birthing. Cool. So that is actually all that we need here, because now if we drop those in the system, depending on how many skulls we get, that might be enough for us to spawn our first Wither. So if we try this again, I'm going to do it on the lower level so we can see this actually happening down here. If I go to request 1 Wither Skeleton Skull and click start, the items should get dropped. They're not going to get dropped because, Isaac, you're a fool, and you do this every time. You need to add these to the blacklist so they don't get picked up by the item collector. Boom, boom, and boom. Let's try that one more time. If we go ahead and request a Wither Skeleton Skull, start, it's going to drop those 3 items onto the ground. Or not. Okay, so the problem here was that the crafting was locked because of the fact that we didn't get a skull back the first time we requested it, but it did just work and we did get 1 skull. Only 1, which is unfortunate. We can do this one more time, and hopefully, if that works, we might get another skull. Now, there's also a possibility here that we don't have enough aura in this chunk as well. I don't know how much aura is required in order for this to work, because it kind of looks like that's not working, and part of me thinks that's probably due to a lack of aura in this chunk. Of course, we could rectify that by building a little platform under here and moving our little tree limiter down here as well, or even above, to be fair. Let me F3G again to bring the chunks up. So the chunk is this one here. I think we could set up a little dirt platform. It's not going to look the best, but it would allow us to bring the aura back up to hopefully allow us to summon more Wither Skeletons. Again, we're going to run into the same issue here where this is now locked. I think you can just change this to never and then change it back, and that seems to fix the issue. So that's how you reset it if that's not working. But let me quickly go move the canopy diminisher back over here, and let's see if we can't summon a few more of these. Before I bring it back over, though, I think we'll probably also look at breeding a few more animals as well, because by the looks of it, we might only get 1 skull per Wither Skeleton, and so it's possible that we might need to do this potentially 6 times if we want to get enough Wither Skeletons to summon 2 Withers to get the Nether Stars required to actually craft the advanced auto crafting table. Alright, so we have some more of these Spirit of Birthings. Now, we've got 6 more in total, which will hopefully get us 6 more Wither Skeleton Skulls. We do only need 5, but it's good to have some backups. And then over here, we are about to make a token of joy, this guy right here. The reason for that is that we can use this to make the swamp home. Not quite sure what the correct pronunciation is there. To make this, we need 4 infused iron, 4 mossy cobblestone, and then 1 token of joy, which we now have 2 of. Perfect. And as far as mossy cobblestone goes, it turns out we can actually just take regular cobblestone and then use our chisel here to turn it directly into mossy cobblestone. Boom and boom. And the idea here, by the looks of it, is that you place down the swamp, and that's going to go ahead and convert any nearby mossy cobblestone into regular cobblestone, like that, and in doing so, increase the aura nearby. And so one thing we can do here is throw down 2 modular routers like this, and if we get a placer module, which does require the dispenser here, boom and boom, this is going to allow us to place down the mossy cobblestone automatically. If we put this in here, I believe we can actually configure this. We could whitelist mossy cobblestone. It shouldn't matter because we're only going to put mossy cobblestone in the buffer, and then that's going to go ahead and hopefully place that down to the front. In here, we might have to click front like that so that it does actually place it down in front of it. Fantastic. And then if we get a breaker module, just like we did in a previous episode, again, doesn't matter what pickaxe you use, so long as it's a pickaxe that is capable of breaking cobblestone, which again is really any. We'll set this to front. This time we will go ahead and change this to whitelist cobblestone, put this in, and now that's going to go ahead and break the cobblestone. The mossy cobblestone gets put down, and we can loop this process, and we should hopefully see aura getting created. Somewhat slowly, but basically for free. And if we really wanted to automate this further, we can create mossy cobblestone in a few different ways. There is an auto chiseler, a mechanical chiseler, I believe, from Create that would allow us to automate this process. There's also a fluid encapsulator, which is a machine from Thermal Expansion, this one right here, where we can use water from an unlimited water source like the sink to turn cobblestone into mossy cobblestone. And of course, if we want to, we can also just do it ourselves manually like this and put those in to increase the aura. So I don't know exactly how much aura we need to make this happen, but if we hit start, that looks like we did indeed have enough. We did, and we got one more skull. So it looks like we might only get one skull per mob here, which is not ideal. Like, it would have been nicer if we could have got multiple skulls per mob, but that does mean that if we use the remainder of the Spirit of Birthings that we have here, we should be able to get the 6 Wither Skeleton skulls that we need, and it's really just a matter of getting enough aura to make that happen. We can make speed upgrades for these modular routers, and they don't seem too difficult. They start with blank modules, and then you can upgrade them with blaze rods, gold nuggets, redstone gold ingots, and blaze powder. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you can put up to 9 in each one, and that should massively increase the speed at which we burn through this mossy cobblestone here. Now the limiting factor is just this swamp block here. I'm also assuming that we can do this. I don't know if this does increase the speed at which it transforms. It looks like it might help a small amount. Let me try this one more time. We should have, I think, enough aura here now. And we do. Cool. So that's enough for one Wither Skeleton. What I'll do between streams, chat, is I'll go ahead and do that 3 more times. I'll make sure we have enough aura and get us 3 more Wither Skeleton skulls, to the point that hopefully next time we can come back and we can look at using those Wither Skeleton skulls to spawn a Wither. Also, it would appear that we have a lag issue brewing over here because we have not got a void upgrade in our amethyst shard drawer. Let me do that just to make sure that going forward we don't end up with amethyst shards everywhere, because that would not be ideal. But we are now making money again, which is good. We do now have the ability to request these computing cores. I think if I were to request a few of these, it should work. The only thing we don't have currently set up is the Skystone. We do need to figure that out as well, so we can actually fully automate that. But we have our first single board computers, and with those, we have unlocked the ability to get started with the Industrial Age questline here. We've already started this a little bit. For example, we do have a dielectric paste in our system. We could take that out and I think complete this quest almost immediately, although we do apparently need 16 dielectric paste. Again, shouldn't be difficult for us to get. Quest complete. Also up here, we have a couple of Britannia quests that we've completed, kind of. We got the mana pool. We would need to get some generating flora. Something like an endo flame would do the trick to complete that quest. And we do, of course, also have the stuff for the energizing orb quest here as well. It's just a case of picking that stuff up. But next time we'll come back and we will look at getting the nether star, so we can look at getting the automatic version of this crafting table. That's going to allow us to automate the production of these single board computers, because right now we can't use this guy to do any kind of auto crafting, but as the name suggests, the auto version can do that. And at that point, it shouldn't be hard to teach our system how to make the redstone ingot. It already knows how to make the integrated circuits, the silicon, and the PCBs. It kind of knows how to make the computing cores, but of course, it doesn't really know how to make them, because we've still not solved the issue of what we do when it fails, because 40% of the time, this process for making the computing core does fail and gives us other random salvage, which is not ideal. We need to kind of fix that so that our system doesn't get clogged when it requests 5 of them and doesn't get 5 of them back. We need to kind of figure that out. But once we do, it should be fairly easy to automate the single board computer, at which point we can make as many of these mechanism modular casings as we like, which allows us to really make as many mechanism machines as we like and really start working our way towards this cryo-cooled mainframe, which is then going to unlock the end game quest line for us. And as well, if we can get these single board computers automated, we can also look at then selling these automatically as well. They sell for $156,000 a piece, which is a fair bit more, almost 5 times more than the $31,250 that we get for our current PCBs. And so it could be quite well worth using those as our method of money generation instead of the PCBs. But all of those are problems for future, Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Forever Factory there.